Hello and welcome. I am DEJI. Now, amid debates over the emergency rule in Rivers State, the sole administrator, retired Vice Admiral Ibas, has suspended all political appointees, including all boards and their management. Those affected include the secretary to the state government, the chief of staff, all commissioners, chairpersons and members of boards, agencies, commissions and parastatals, as well as special advisors, special assistants, and senior special assistants. The suspension took effect from Wednesday, March the 26, 2025, and the affected officers were ordered to hand over to the permanent secretaries in their MDAs. In a statement, the government said that the decision aligns with the powers vested in the administrator by President Bola Tinubu. Now, following his swearing in as sole administrator of Rivers State on March the 19th, Ibas, who is a former chief of naval staff, vowed to ensure that order is restored in the 6 months of the emergency rule. Let me also say this, that as governors of the PDP, about 6 of them have decided to approach the Supreme Court as well to seek interpretation as to whether the president has the powers to declare emergency. Not just declare emergency now, but to suspend the democratically elected governor of Rivers State, the State House of Assembly, as well as the deputy governor. Well, the case is now before the Supreme Court, and before long, I want to believe all of this argument will come to an end, and then everyone will know the legal position of things when it comes to the declaration of emergency in any part of the country. But joining me now to discuss all of this further is the governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Rivers State in the 2023 governorship election, Dan Prince-Will Fafa. I also have Wisdom Chap Jumbo, who is a public affairs analyst now. He joins us from Rivers State. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Fafa. Any surprise at all that the sole administrator took the action he did by suspending all political appointees?
Quite frankly, I do not know how a sole administrator would work with political appointees, especially those who are not for statutory tenured positions. I believe that the issue really is whether or not the appointment of a sole administrator is appropriate or is constitutional.
Legitimate, yeah,
constitutional. That is already in court, but practically, I don't see how a sole administrator would just step into the shoes of a governor and start operating with the people that the governor had appointed. I think that would be a practical, there will be practical issues there. However, clearly, for those who are tenured and those whose positions are a little bit more statutorily protected and who are quasi-political, not quite working at the beck and call of the governor, perhaps those could have been
like what positions would you mean?
For example, you have parastatals, where the
board chairmen had been appointed and all of that.
Yeah, some board chairmen, I would say, they don't interact with the governor from day-to-day business. They're not, I do not see the need for all of them to be removed. But clearly, there are many that if the sole administrator want to have a free hand, he would have to appoint himself. I think I understand that,
Okay, Wisdom, what's your take on this?
Mr. Fafa has already said it, which I agree with him. For a sole administrator to be able to function effectively, there is need to indeed suspend those political positions and appointment so that there is some form of neutrality to be able to give the administrator some headroom to work, and also to be able to effect. Remember, we are in a state of emergency, so it's not we're not in the normal times. So these measures put in place, I believe, are just put in place to be able to help the administrator do what the assignment he has, which is to ensure that he restores peace and other. But like Mr. Fafa said also, there are some positions I think maybe all of them shouldn't have been affected, but we were not sure what the directive he must have received to make him, extend those suspension to most of those positions, where some of the board parastatal position. But in general, I think the essence is to allow him work, because we saw that some appointees of the governor were still issuing press releases. We tried to warn most of them that, look, you guys really need to be careful and allow the administrator to work. Whether you agree or not, the issue is in court to determine whether putting him there in the first place is legal or not. We'll allow the Supreme Court to let us know. But some of them were still issuing press releases, that we feel like they should have just put a hold on to it, since the governor and the deputy governor and the House were in suspension. And most specifically, the chief press secretary to the governor will continue to issue, many press releases, even when he didn't have access to the governor to get direction. So that was really disturbing at the time. But this is where we are now.
Okay, let me ask you, Mr. Fafa.
Yes.
Look, we're waiting for the Supreme Court to make a pronouncement. So we're going to there's going to be a clarity over this, long drawn argument as to whether the president has the right, not just to declare an emergency, but to also suspend an elected governor. I mean, the Supreme Court would have to, decide on that. And then I believe all the argument would after then, probably, come to an end. But let us look at the crisis itself. Why do you think the crisis got worse, escalated to the level that the president had to intervene and declare a state of emergency? What exactly would you say, worsened the crisis? That the elders, political elders in Rivers State could not even resolve it. Elders in the South region could not even resolve it.
No, it is not that the elders could not resolve it. It is not that River State citizens could not. It's the nature of the problem, to my mind, that does not allow itself to be resolved. It wasn't a dispute, to be resolved. You see, basically, the issue was that since...
It wasn't a dispute to be resolved?
No, not really, because since 1999, what happened, and I've had cause to discuss this a few times, even publicly. Since 1999, River State entered a political situation in which there was some kind of a broken platform, okay? In 1999, what happened was that the elders of the state got together and zoned the governorship to what we call the upland. It's upland riverine in politics in River State. The old Bayelsa was part of River State at the time. Mm-hmm. When Bayelsa State was created, it was now a new state. And the issue of how the zoning should be and all of that came up. I remember distinctly that especially it was the Jaw leaders, the Calabari leaders to be specific, who brokered the idea that it should be zoned to the upland. Okay. And when it was zoned to the upland, which meant that the mainstream major candidates from the river, and I myself and Subrekon were the two main candidates at the time, did not contest the election, because we were Jaw. And it was zoned to the upland. And Dr. Peter Odili became the governor.
The governor, yeah.
Okay. And when Dr. Peter Odili became the governor, there were complaints and disputes, and some people thought it should have gone to the Ikwere because they are the largest group in the upland, or not the largest, but they are one of. The Ogoni is also a very large group, in the upland. But it didn't turn out that way. So somehow, when Dr. Odili concluded and now chose another upland candidate. Amechi, it became
He did not choose him anyway.
Well,
we know how it played out.
No, he chose him at the beginning. He was his candidate at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just that.
That's true.
Yes, it's just that he moved from Amici to Umehia. Okay.
Another upland.
Another upland, person. Yeah. And then after that, so progressively, River State political situation got what I would call a smaller and smaller catchment area. Okay, because when that platform broke, the Amici people were angry. But unfortunately, he got into power after that. Then his platform broke again when Nyesom Wike and him do both Ikwere. So each new political cycle got the group smaller and smaller and smaller. Right now, it is Nyesom Wike's group that was in power. They had excluded even the Amici group. And that group...
And of course, the group
broke again.
They brought in somebody from the Riverine area.
And then they brought in...
for equity.
Well, that's another long story.
Well, you could say for equity. Anyway, but...
Whichever way you say it. But it was very clear that the state was not going to accept another upland candidate. So, that, Governor Fubara came in. Okay? So when Governor Fubara had issue again with Nyesom Wike, it was yet another breakage of another platform. So we have a situation in River State where the political grouping in power has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, leaving a large number of people outside. But
my question is this: even within this smaller grouping, why? I mean, you have some leaders, what you call elder statesmen in the states, beyond politics. Why were they not able to resolve this?
That's what I'm telling you, that the nature of the breakage of platforms, they could not, you can't reconcile when you don't know what they're fighting over. You can't reconcile when you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know where the skeletons are buried. So what the issue really has been is that even now when we hear agreement is agreement, what really is the agreement?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone, even in the political groups, I don't think very many people know what the issues are. So I don't think it's a failure on the part of River State elders. I don't accept that. I don't think it's a failure on the part of well-meaning people.
The reason I brought this up, and
yes.
To some extent, and let me come to you, Wisdom. Part of the reasons why somehow I have a feeling that, look, the elders also failed to resolve this. When they had that meeting with the president, some of the elders were there. I mean, they were there. And you would expect that after that meeting with the president, the elders would have called, all the sides together and sit down and resolve it. But after that meeting with the president, some of the elders even now descended onto the arena of conflict and started making statements and pronouncements that were not helpful at all, clearly taking sides.
Okay, thanks, JD. So,
DEJI, actually.
Most respectfully, DEJI rather, most respectfully, I want to disagree with Mr. Fafa. Look, our elders in River State, the reason why this problem has not been solved till today is that the elders, they took a side. So some elders stood with Wike, the other elders stood with Sim, they took a side. When there are crises like this, or when there are issues like this, we can't go to elders to find a solution if we know that the elders have already decided in their heart who to stand with. So that's where the issue is. So no, there are elders that should have solved this, but the elders are divided. The elders are divided, and I like that he has given a background on the political history or journey of the states. And truthfully, that's where we are coming from to where we are now. But what we are seeing today is that in 2023, many people forgot how the elections really went that produced Governor Fubara. And the campaign, which someone like me was fully part of, when we supported Fubara to be governor was we were working on the campaign mantra of consolidation and continuity. So what was the idea is that Fubara was coming from a political family of Wike in the PDP, and the idea was to continue with the good works and the leadership of Yes of Wike in the state and continue. So what then caused the problem? As the FCT minister has spoken a few times, the issue started on when we started arguing on a structure, political structure, who takes over the structure, of the party in the state, who wants to control everything. The governor had between May 2023, May 29, 2023, to June the 17th to have conducted the LG elections, but he refused to do so. Why did he refuse to do so was because he had a plan, and most people who advised him gave him that plan to say, don't do local government elections until after their tenure expires so that we can put in CTC, chairman in the local government. So the issues we see in Rivers State today began on the disagreement on what should happen to the local government. That's where the issue started from, and I know the minister has spoken about this a few times. But the president called for, a peace conversation. And in that peace conversation, there were 8-point agreements. In that 8-point agreement, everybody was there. Even, like we like to call him, our great-grandfather in the politics in Rivers State, Dr. Peter Odili, was there. He read, according to people that were there, the 8-point agenda to everybody in the room. And the governor was asked the question, do you agree or not disagree? He said he agrees with the plan, and his only objection, according to people who were there that narrated it, was that he said, Mr. President, my only request is that my supporters should not be victimized, and everybody agreed. They all came back to Rivers State. The governor did a broadcast and told everybody he signed that agreement and was going to keep up to it. He did 8 things from that agreement, but did not do 2 of them, which is 1, conduct local government election and represent your budget to the constituted assembly of 27 members led by Martins Amewule. So the issue we are in now today is that many people did not say anything when we had a governor who was presenting his budget to 3 members of an assembly. Many people did not have an issue with a governor who was screening members of his cabinet with only 3 members of the assembly. Section 96 of the Constitution clearly states the quorum of an assembly before you can conduct business. And even when there were multiple, there were different court orders that were against the governor of how he was operating, some of these elders that were with him were advising him to continue with an unconstitutional process in an illegal act. He even presented the 2025 budget against a court order.
But then let me ask you this. Let me ask you. Sorry to interject.
So you see all the different process where we are coming from that led to where we are today. If only he was advised correctly and he acted according to the provisions of the Constitution. I don't know how we want to solve this when we have elders.
Just hold on. Hold on. I understand. I mean, we know some of those things. But let me ask you this. How does this state of emergency, how will this resolve? Because, up till this moment, I have not seen, if you like, any attempt at all, from all the sides to come together. What I'm seeing is it appears the various sides are trying to dig in. And of course, which is not in any way helpful. So for you now, what do you expect to begin to see? How should this emergency period be used to resolve?
I'd like to make a comment.
I'm going to come to you, Mr. Fafa. I'm just going to come to you. Just hold on. You'll make a comment. So let me hear from you, Wisdom.
Okay, thank you, DEJI. So we have 6 months. Quite unfortunate, I like to say, that we have a state of emergency now. All of this could have been avoided. But where's the way forward for peace? We have 6 months, and I believe that in these 6 months, all parties will begin to come together. The administrator is working to restore order, which he has done so. I mean, we have not heard any issues, from Port Harcourt, which, of course, if we didn't have this kind of emergency, things could have really gone worse. Those of us from Rivers State, we know how these things really do happen. But yes, it's an opportunity for us to reflect, for the actors in this to reflect and be able to come together. There are peace conversations indeed happening, in little segments. If you're listening, closely, the suspended governor has had the time to meet with the sacked 23 local government chairmen just recently to have conversations with them, though those conversations were not public. We believe that as we go, we only had like 2 weeks since the administrator resumed. So we believe in coming days, there will be different conversations that will be happening. They might not be public. Most frankly, we don't expect really to see them public, even though we wish they should be. But these conversations are happening to bring parties together, to indeed form an alignment and have a political solution to some of these issues and be able to reflect for the greater good of Rivers people.
Okay.
Because, DEJI, we need to deliver governance to the people. Salaries are being owed, things need to really move. Civil servants don't deserve, what they're experiencing in spite of all of these issues. We need to make sure that governance, keeps moving. And at the end of this state of emergency, we want to see that everybody has come to form really an alignment that moves the state forward and restore peace for us.
So, Mr. Fafa, let me get your thoughts, because you look at this crisis, this is not what the Rivers people bargained for. This is a crisis, it's like a crisis in a small group that now, escalated out of control and has now, what should not be the business of the people of Rivers State is now the business of the business of the people of Rivers State. We're talking about a small group that had a problem in their own group, and suddenly it's now become the problem of the entire state.
I do not want to hold brief for Governor Similaye or for Wike or for any group or any side, but I think that a sincere approach to resolve the issues in Rivers State must take a historical perspective, a situation before even this government, before Wike, before we have a political system and culture where state capture has become the way of politics. And when you have state capture as the aim of everyone, you want to control everything without anyone else. There is no room for sharing of power.
And that's a recipe for crisis.
That is a recipe for crisis. It does not matter who the person is or who it is not. You see, when the 8-point meeting came, anyone who understood Rivers State politics knew that it would not work. You see, we had the same issue when President Obasanjo said Amichi's choice had K-leg, okay?
Yeah.
These things have been recurring. So it is not just looking at if this person had agreed to this or not agreed to that. No, there are underlying things. The nature of the politics in the state is state capture. No, you don't want to lose one local government. You get 100%. You want to appoint every single person, and you don't appoint anyone, even within your own party, that is not part of your own segment. That is a problem. That is what the issue really is. So it's a very small group. Most states, if you remove the entire political structure, there will be crisis immediately in the town. The reason why there isn't is that government in Rivers State has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller until it has reached a point where it really does not have the capacity to resist external interference. That is what has happened. I believe that Similaye,
I see your point.
In the 8-point agenda, in the 8-point agreement, the one that he claimed, that Mr. Jumbo claimed was not honored, could not have been honored, because in the interim between the time of the agreement and implementation, there was the issue of defection. It's one day, everybody saw it on national TV, the 27 State Assembly members said they were no longer members of their own party. Each party nationally has issues, but in Rivers State, all the parties are worse than dysfunctional. That is a problem also. So we have these issues that are on ground that we cannot shy away from. And I don't think it comes from the elders. First of all, each group has its own elders that they have chosen, and they believe those are the only elders in the state. So if you are resolving...
But then there are elders in the state too who are, non-partisan.
But they didn't call those ones. Even when the president did River State elders, we all know our elders in every state. Elders that people can listen to, Why would I listen to an elder who has been partisan all through? It doesn't make sense. And those were the people who were invited to Asorok, to the villa. So there is authentic River State elders. If they want to find them, I think they're there. People know who they are. People that were respected enough.
Not these political elders.
For people, like when I said we were told not to contest in 1999 and we agreed. I remember Justice Caribe White. He didn't have any votes. He had no political pressure over me at all. But we listened to them because they were elders. And there are still elders in River State that would call people and you would listen. But if you now have those who have now created their own elders, who now choose to say these are the people they recognize and elders, and if those elders are also recognized and are the ones expected to resolve the issues whenever they call Rivers elders, that's a problem. So I think that we would need to look at this thing from a fair, balanced approach. Whatever I do, especially when it comes to River State affairs, I try to be as reasonable as possible, as balanced as possible, because that's the way we learned politics. We learned politics from those who believed that the interest of the people is number one, not personal interest. All the quarrels that we see are on personal issues.
That's true.
And in fact, many of the so-called issues cannot even be brought to daylight because they are so personal that they're ridiculous. So I believe... And
it's the reason I said, look, personal problems have now become the problems of...
Yes, so to a large extent, that is why... See, I know that many younger people in River State no longer know any politics different from state capture. But this that has happened to us, whether it is constitutional or it is not constitutional, I think it's an opportunity for all Rivers people to get together.
But are you seeing that happening now? Are you seeing that happening now?
It's only 2 weeks. It is only 2 weeks, and we are watching the actions of the sole administrator. We're trying to. It's revolving.
Would it be the responsibility of the sole administrator to bring people together?
No,
I would think it's the people.
No. But he has a role. See, his job, as he has come in now, can be divisive, and it can afford opportunity for unity and rebuilding. It depends on what he's... and so people, responsible citizens of River State, will look at it and say, let's see if this is a solution. We have seen that a few things. My approach is to be as conciliatory and as, what's the word, not negative as possible to see. Let him deliver what he wants to do. Let us see if it's going to help, because this is supposed to be a solution. And if there is need for help, he should seek the input of various people. And I think Rivers people should be encouraged to see if we can make it work. While the matter is in court, for 6 months, I think let us see how it works.
Wisdom, let me quickly ask you this. Do you think the sole administrator now has a role to play in settling this crisis? Let's be frank. This is a problem of the PDP. And the PDP is not the only party in the state anyway. And even within the PDP, just as Mr. Fafa has said, you have groupings, small grouping. And so this is a creation of that small grouping. And you think the sole administrator should have a role to play to bring and resolve this crisis?
DEJI, this issue has really gone beyond just the PDP, to be very frank. This is not just a
No,
PDP
I
matter
understand.
anymore. This is now an issue that concerns all of us in River State. And so the responsibility of the administrator, primary responsibility indeed, is to bring this peace and be able to bring all parties together, frankly. So, like Mr. Fafa said, we're going to be watching him to see how he's going to achieve this. But he has a role to play, so we can't even, not say he can't, but he has a role to play, and we want to see how he's going to achieve that, bring everybody together, so sort of do some research on all that has happened. And after the 6 months, we start off from, a place where it will be like a fresh beginning for the state to begin to manage the affairs. But knowing River State being very heavily political, there are some people who we know that the reason why they have kept this crisis till today is because they benefit greatly from it. The longer the crisis, the better benefit for them.
Yes.
So those people are also going to fight back very strongly. So expect that to also happen. Because where there was supposed to be peace, where the issue should have ended, we know that there are some people who ensured that the crisis continue. It benefits them politically, it benefits them financially. So those crisis entrepreneurs, we don't want to see this crisis end. But I'm hoping, I'm praying that for the greater good and the interest of Rivers people, that they will allow peace to reign, and for us to fix, what we see presently that is not to the advantage of even the other Rivers people, as there's so much work to indeed be done. And what we have not achieved again since 1999, which is the Fourth Republic, is be able to set, a developmental direction for the state. So what myself and a few young people have been able to do recently, about put together 100 volunteers, is to begin to decide the future or the development plan of River State as we think ahead even up to 2050. So we are working on what we've called Rivers 2050 developmental plan on what we want to see the state achieve, in years to come between now and 2050, so there can be direction for this. All of this is what I think we have not done so well in River State. Everybody comes and do what they need to do or what they have to do. Nobody is working with a plan, with a direction. So myself and some young people, we've been able to pull together about 100 volunteers, and maybe DEJI, I'll share with you what is ready. Okay. Rivers 2050, where are we heading to? All those kind of things, what we want to see after now, being the discourse, within the polity of River State. How do we set a plan for the state to move on in years to come? But the sole administrator has, a good direction now to set peace, work with all parties. We cannot exclude him. I like what he has done so far. He has met with traditional rulers. He has met, with different groups. And we hope that he continues to meet with different people as a way to set the tune forward for peace. River State will be peaceful. Trust me, whether they like it or not, it will be peaceful.
All right. I think it's on that note, we'll just have to leave it. But just before we go, Mr. Fafa, very quickly, because we're out of time, don't you think the president too needs to probably hold another meeting with all the parties involved, the genuine elders of Rivers, and, just one more meeting as well?
I think the presidents, I've said it publicly, that I think the presidents need broader advice. I think the advice he gets is obviously tilted. And in River State, the perception is that he's taking sides. I believe that you can't make peace successfully if the participants don't think that you are fair. And whether we like it or not, River State at this point now, his own aide has created an ethnic issue out of it, which was not quite plainly so, but it is unprecedented in the history of Nigeria for a sitting minister to attack an ethnic group openly, and then to go there in a provocative manner and to... I ordinarily have a lot of sympathy and understanding for Nyeso Wike in his politics, but he has way gone out of line. And the president needs to rein in and get everyone to behave properly.
Properly.
We certainly need a new reset in Rivers State. Absolutely new reset. And for the sole administrator, I would say that he should call out, for the entire state, and people would rally around him to get a more successful conciliation.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program and sharing your thoughts with us. And I appreciate the fact that everybody wants peace for Rivers State and development as well. And the hope is that something positive and something great will come out of this chaos that we have at the moment. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program, and I really appreciate your coming.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us, don't go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places, the Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI 360, dissecting the issues.